What's up, y'all? Welcome to this week's edition of ThronesWatch. My name is Kyle Luke, and with me here today is the Jon Snow to my Tormund that is our weekly journey through the Game of Thrones universe, Jamal Andrus.
That's me.
First up, well, winter's here, and holy it's scary as hell. Last night, the last 20 minutes of Game of Thrones were arguably the best 20 minutes of the entire series, from a cinematic standpoint as well as just an action-packed standpoint. The White Walkers have always kind of hovered over this show as an ominous threat in the background. You know, we hear tales of them that are told amongst the characters, and we've seen a couple instances of how terrifying they are. But
Sam's really close.
Yes, yeah. Sam's close encounter. You know, them transforming the baby into a White Walker zombie. But last night, the White Walkers were on full display as they have now come from the background and emerged in this horrifying zombie apocalypse takeover.
and if George R.R. Martin knows how to do anything, it's introduce crazy stuff. So, as for all the tales and all the, oh, how terrifying they are, I think we got a thorough enough introduction from the White Walkers.
Absolutely.
We are all officially concerned for Westeros.
It's time to hit the panic button. Winter is coming in the form of a zombie apocalypse. The White Walkers emerge from the mountaintop as you know this deafening silence takes place right before their takeover, and the next thing you know, a full-on massacre essentially breaks out.
And I mean, as a part of the shock of seeing it all, it really reminded me, if you remember the scene I liked, when they threw themselves over the bridge and were kind of just hitting the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And it reminded me a lot of your typical like zombie movies, your World War Z, your I Am Legend, where it's just these undead, you know, completely insane, you know, completely just animals coming after the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, and as scared as we may have been on the couch, you could see it all in Jon Snow's face.
Yeah. Jon Snow's been preaching about this for what seems like an eternity. Winter is coming, winter is coming, winter is coming. We all need to band together. And I feel like you as the viewer might have been a little tired of it, a little over it. All right, Jon, it's coming, we get it, man. Well, last night it showed up, and Jon Snow was proven correct.
Verified,
sure. in his claims and his fears. But, however, Jon Snow did have arguably the best moment from that scene, and that is his destruction of a White Walker with his sword, Longclaw.
Agreed. And we didn't know, as you will find out when you watch the show or when you watched it, the Valyrian steel aspect. And that's something that I don't think anyone was sure of. You know, originally it was the dragon glass. Everyone talked about the dragon glass. And if I could just interject on the dragon glass thing, didn't seem like they had nearly enough. Like they walk in with this bag, it's like a duffel bag thing.
Yeah, what are like the reproduction plans for that stuff?
I have no idea. While you may think Jon Snow gets the better of that moment, I would argue if you go to the end where the king raises the crowd of the undead, so to speak, and just kind of teases them like, hey, Jon Snow, while you roll away, just so you know, we have a full army here. And then the camera pans out, it's a beautiful shot. The camera pans out and you see just a landscape of undead White Walkers that are ready to just take Westeros by storm, if you will.
Preceding this incredible, sequence of events was arguably another one of the better moments of the season as Tyrion and Dany finally come face to face in an actual discussion and meeting where Tyrion's trying to prove his worth as an advisor.
You're going to advise me, while you can still speak in complete sentences.
Want to say this out loud. Tyrion is the best with a cup of wine in his hand. You give him that cup of wine, let him sit down and talk to you about politics, he is home. Just Chuck Todd over there.
Sit back and watch him just play the game.
play the game. And Dany's smart. Dany, regardless of how she may feel and the history between the two families, she, much like Tyrion, can see an end goal.
Yeah, Dany recognizes what Tyrion Lannister can bring to the table.
Right.
To your point, a couple episodes ago, that you thought that these two would hit it off, and hit it off they did.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad to see how receptive Dany is to all of Tyrion's ideas, because Tyrion, as you said, is just the master of this game. He understands the politics of Westeros, and that's something that Dany really struggles with. In her, she clearly has the self-awareness that, you know, she needs help, and Tyrion, you know, is probably known throughout the Seven Kingdoms as being somewhat of a very valuable asset in this battle.
Right. Now, before we go to our power rankings, we want to get to the extraordinarily important in any other episode, but footnotes for this episode moments.
Yeah.
One of those being Sansa. Sansa finally catches the smallest of breaks. Just a really tiny break. But anything is great for Sansa's start. She finds out that her two brothers are actually alive.
Tell me that they weren't your brothers! They weren't Bran and Rickon!
And up until this point, she thought she was the only one left. So, Sansa gets the smallest of breaks when talking to Theon about, or Reek, talking to Theon about what happened with the two farm boys who were burned instead of the last of the Stark clan.
Yeah. So real quick, before we end today's episode, I want to move on to our ThronesWatch power rankings, which have taken quite a turn. Quite a turn. You know, we went a little bit back and forth on these before we set up for today. So I'm just gonna kick it off, and Jamal's probably gonna counter with a few valid points. So leading off for me, I really think that Dany is now #1. I think she's joined forces with Tyrion. The plan that they are potentially going to work together is one I think that we need to be keeping a very close eye on. Two things here. I realize that we've been keeping the Lannisters just because of technicality, because they technically have the throne. I'm done with the technicality. We didn't even hear or see from Tommen. The only thing we heard about Tommen was that he's not eating because he's so sad. So I'm done with Tommen. Dany, you're #1 in my book, now that Tyrion has showed up as the smartest person in arguably all the Seven Kingdoms as your right-hand man.
At a very close #2, we have the White Walkers. They just kind of skied up the power rankings for us, because we hadn't seen them, we didn't know what level of battle plans they were, but at this point, they've moved up.
I'm safe to put them and the Night's King right there #2, if not #1, after what we just saw. I mean, Jesus Christ, who is going to stop that army of undead zombies?
Unless we find a secret stash of dragon glass and Valyrian steel, Westeros is in some real big trouble. So, yeah, they're in #2.
Very solid #2.
And making a strong case for #1.
And then the rest of the ThronesWatch power rankings, at least in our opinion, I would say 3 through 50 is who even knows at this point.
Who cares at
Everybody's
this point, right?
in just the worst situation. You have Stannis, his army is dying on their march to Winterfell. They still have to go to King's Landing, remember. You have... who?
We don't know.
Who else do you even
Who
have?
cares?
I don't even
Doesn't
think,
matter.
Yeah, at this point,
the Queen Mother is licking water off the ground.
But
we'll see.
We'll see. Stay tuned to next week.
2 episodes left, guys.
2 episodes left, and historically, episode #9 has always been one of the most jam-packed episodes in the Game of Thrones show history. So we're looking forward to see how next week's episode can even possibly top this week's. But until then, this is Kyle, it's Jamal signing off. If you want to get in touch with the show, by the way, tweet at us, either at our handles or at Newsy Videos with the hashtag ThronesWatch. Let us know what you guys think of the show. Let us know if you guys have any other predictions or if you think our ThronesWatch rankings are complete crap.
We'll respond, we promise. Yep. Insult or compliment.
All right, take care, y'all.